Hello, and welcome to Coffee Time. Coffee Time is a space where magical humans come together for some real talk, strong coffee, and powerful introspections on whatever is top of mind right now. My name is Natalie, and I am your host for this channel and today's super exciting conversation. The idea behind Coffee Time is that you are in your favorite coffee shop, maybe cozied up with a book, and you begin to listen in on an intriguing conversation between folks at the next table over. For that reason, there is no big introduction. We absolutely let the conversation speak for itself. And if you do want to know more about these special guests following today's episode, I invite you to check out the show notes for more details. So, on that note, let's dive right in. Hi. I am excited. I was gonna say anxious for this, but no, I'm not really. I'm actually just really curious for you. I was gonna say, like, in the words of RuPaul, we can open the library, like read, because I feel like that's what is about to happen. Is I'm gonna get read by the human design stuff that you have compiled for me.
Yes. So, I will say that, like, not everyone, when they discover their human design sorry, I've got, like, both cats. So
It's life. I get it.
not everyone, when they discover human design Jesus, I'm a mess today.
The purring though.
Yeah. Like, feels like their type
Mhm.
or, like, what they discover with their body graph resonates with them. Like, when I discovered my human design like I'm a generator. I'm a 5-1 emotional generator, and first I was like, I have no idea what that means.
Mhm.
Like
That. Yeah.
what the hell?
You're like, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and then as I was like looking at my graph, like, so for example, I pulled your chart and you are a projector.
That
So
part I knew, but that's the extent of what I knew.
right. So, like, do you know what a projector is, or like like how you use your energy versus like other types?
No, the only thing that I ever really heard about it was through someone because I seem to just know a lot of projectors, and
Uh-huh.
the big thing was like waits for the invitation. That was what I
Yeah.
heard. But I also interpreted that as like it could be my soul's invitation to do something. It doesn't have to be like an explicit ask from another person.
Right.
And
Right.
I
It
think
doesn't
that's
have
where
to
I
be
know
like
some people got stuck, like who I
yeah.
know at least. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a literal invitation. So it doesn't have to be like a, "Hey, will you come with me to do
Hmm.
this thing?"
Hmm.
Because I think that's what a lot of people get hung up on is like, "Well, if I have to wait for an invitation to do something,
Just
then, like,
stagnant my whole
I'm
life.
just
Yeah.
never gonna do anything."
Yeah.
Like, so in my case, as a generator, my strategy is to respond.
Hmm.
And that doesn't mean that I can never initiate anything or
Hmm.
that if I do initiate something that it won't work out for me.
Hmm.
Um, but like once you become aware of what
Hmm.
your type, strategy, and authority are, which are like the three biggest things to
Is that what
start
you will
with.
teach me today?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I will. Yeah, so as a projector, you are meant to wait for the invitation and like wait for recognition. So
Mhm,
throughout your life, you may have come up against some, like, I guess, friction
mhm,
or like bitterness if you give someone advice, but they didn't ask for it. So it's
mhm,
not that necessarily the advice wasn't correct or that it wasn't needed, it
mhm.
just wasn't the right time.
That totally makes sense.
Like,
I
has
get
that been a thing that you've experienced throughout your life?
it's happened, and I think too, and like maybe you could. So here's the thing, like you know me, I mean I don't know all the answers, but I'm fairly observant of my life and my patterns, and like I'm doing the
Right.
work to figure that out. But I'm kind of curious where maybe if I'll say something, if it can be mapped at all to like the framework of my human design. So I'm curious about that. But so for me, what I've often noticed too is that without someone explicitly stating to me like, hey, I want to tell you about this thing but I'm not looking for advice, I don't know how to interact with the information other than give guidance. Like it's my
Right.
default position. And it's not always well received because sometimes people just want to sit in their self-pity and like do that little dance, and I'm just not here for it because also as an introvert empath, it's really exhausting to just hold space for that 24/7 if someone's not
Yeah.
willing to like do the work.
Yeah.
Makes sense too.
So it's funny that you say that because you also have an open emotional center. So as a projector, like looking at your chart, you have your ajna and your throat defined. So in the
What's
human design
ashna?
chart,
Sorry.
so the ajna is like, see, I'm still learning, so
That's
I can't
okay.
like explain these things off the
Wait,
top
is
of my head
that?
all the time.
Oh, that's my crown. Okay, cool. I have
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Sanskrit words for the chakras behind me. So yeah.
yeah. So you've got your head,
Yeah.
your ajna, your throat, and then you've got your G or identity center.
Mhm,
You've got your heart or your will center, and
mhm.
then you've got your emotional center or solar plexus. It really like aligns with the chakras for the most part.
Okay, so for me, it's my
Um,
crown and my throat are defined.
yes.
Okay.
And so like you have a
Or
very
sorry,
consistent
my third eye.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Your third eye and your throat. So you
Gotcha.
have a very consistent way of like conceptualizing
Okay.
and speaking.
Makes sense.
Which yeah, exactly. And, like, this is why I love human design because it just brings awareness, and
Mhm,
it's very validating.
mm,
Once I started digging more into my chart, I was like, "Oh, like, so many things in my life make sense," and I realized that now I've been operating out of alignment for my type and my strategy and my
mhm.
authority. So now that I'm more aware of it, like, it doesn't mean that now everything's, like, fixed and my life is perfect.
Yeah.
Far from that, but now I can kind of, like, check myself when I'm starting to feel like when you're out of alignment, tend to feel bitterness. And, like, yeah, like, "Oh, I'm not being appreciated
Mhm,
for the advice that I am giving or the
mhm.
things that I am doing." And, like, I see this a lot with my partner who is also a projector,
Okay.
and, like, just the other day, he, like, did something. He grabbed, like, the box of cat food. And he got really frustrated with me and was like, "Why would you put the cat food back there when it's so hard to get to? Like, what would you have done if I didn't just pull it out for you?" And I was like, "Well, I didn't ask you to get the cat food for me. You just did that, and now you're really upset because you just exerted energy,
Yeah.
and now you're acting like I should have been thanking you for that." It's like
Mhm.
I would have just moved the thing in front of it, gotten
It
it,
would have
and put
been
it in.
fine. That's so
Right.
I'm kind of the same in that I'm like, this is not the most efficient way. Why wouldn't you do the most efficient thing? Like
Yes.
that's maybe to do with that thinking you're talking about too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so he like I see like the bitterness show up in him in that example because he's
Mhm,
just like, "Oh, I'm doing this and I'm not being thanked for it."
mhm, mhm.
Okay, but you didn't have to do that thing,
Yeah.
and like you didn't have to be in that place of now feeling upset because I'm not thanking you for the thing that I didn't ask for.
Right. That's super.
Not that it's not appreciated, but like now you are upset about having to do the thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's like shown up for you, especially like thinking back through your life, if things like that, obviously not like an example with cat food, but
Mhm. Well, it's I'm potentially unpacking a lot of that now in terms of like trauma, to be honest with you, because and
yeah,
I don't know if it's kind of the mirror of that is that what I'm realizing is people often expected me to just be okay and do the things I needed to do, and I wasn't offered support. And so now I'm finally letting myself be mad about that because it's like
yeah,
I had to do all this stuff for myself when I really shouldn't have had to because I was a child. Um, and so I think I don't know if it's necessarily bitterness, but that same sort of thought process for sure.
yeah. And I mean, bitterness can show up in different ways,
Mhm.
and you can like kind of check in with yourself and see how that feels for you because everyone experiences feelings, emotions, and like physical sensations differently. Like my like when I'm out of alignment, I experience frustration.
Mm,
When
mhm.
I am in alignment, I experience satisfaction. And so for
Okay.
me, frustration shows up as I feel like there's this inner friction,
Right. That
as
makes
if
sense.
like, yeah, like I feel like there's physical like
Mhm,
friction inside of me, and I
mhm.
just don't know, how to work through that. So then I
Yeah, that
just
makes
kind of have to step back and like check in and figure out, okay, what's causing this frustration and this friction? Because I will
mhm,
even literally use the word frustration or I
mhm.
feel very frustrated right now.
Yeah.
when I'm trying to talk about something.
Right.
Um, so bitterness can just show up for you in different ways, like a sour
Mhm.
taste in your mouth or just like a little
Mm.
pang of
Mhm.
like, you know.
Well, I notice a lot because you mentioned like third eye and throat being the defined points.
Mhm.
And that whole connection and how I
Yeah.
perceive things and process things. And I do notice, and I don't know if this is relevant to me, maybe this relates, sorry, to me being like out of alignment in a sense. I notice in conversation a lot. Um, it's interesting because me, I'm a fast talker. Like when I'm ready to articulate a point, like I go, and there's probably
Yeah.
like 10 of them at a time, and like the way they intertwine is really complex, and I'm like, I'm here for it. Like I am excited by this. However, I also take pause to be able to dive into that. Like I need that moment to process. And I
Mhm.
think now that you're mentioning this, like it could potentially, you tell me if this makes any sense given the human design side of things, it could potentially map back to a disconnect between those chakras because I have to really stop to be able to bring that information through my voice. Like
Mhm.
it's hard to get it external from me sometimes because I get really trapped in just the analysis.
Yeah.
And I find often people are so used to others reacting instantaneously in an interpersonal dialogue that they don't know how to have that pause in conversation to
Yeah.
let me process that way. And I think sometimes that's actually why I retreat from interactions with others and why I like my online posting and my whatever, because I can create that space. Someone else doesn't have to allow
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Um, and I find I actually have to tell people, like, I'll say a thing, I'll be like, just give me a sec. And they'll think that means like I'm not ready. And I was like, no, I just need you to be quiet so that I can formulate this and then I can engage. But like, you need to stop. Like, this is my space right now. But they're not used to that kind of an interaction.
Mhm. So I think it's also like, I mean, our like all of us have been conditioned into like a heteronormative, patriarchal,
Yes.
capitalist world. So there's unpacking a lot of that as well.
Hmm.
Um, because I like, for example, I've been coming up against a lot of frustration and friction
Hmm.
with my job this past week. And I like my boss is a manifesting generator.
Hmm.
So she moves much, much quicker than I do. She is like a whirlwind. Her energy is just like a straight up hurricane. And I am absolutely not built to operate like that. And there's been a lot of frustration between us because I know I'm not built to move like that and get tasks done like that. Hi Sherlock, you comfy now? Um, but I think that even though she's aware of her design and my design, unless you're like constantly reminding yourself and checking in, like, how am I supposed to be interacting with other people? Because as a
Right.
projector and as a generator, like, we're not meant to
Oh,
interact with each other the same way, if that
okay.
makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
not designed to do the same type of things that I'm designed to do, and that's totally okay.
Hmm.
You just have to meet each other halfway.
Right.
You know, it's like I'm in partnership with a projector,
Hmm.
and after learning his design, I was like, "Oh, this is why you're like tired all the time
Hmm.
because you don't have any motor centers defined. So as a projector, you don't have any like your the lower half of your chart is just not defined at all. So if you
Okay.
pull up your chart, like I can.
Yeah, tell me all the things. And also, can you explain, because before we transition to the next point in my chart, because absolutely, like, just me, any information that has come through in my chart, you can dump it here. I'm an open book.
Yeah.
What does it mean for like my third eye and my throat to be defined, like versus not defined?
So you that just means that you have consistent access to the energy of those centers.
Hmm.
So like you do
Okay.
have a very consistent way of conceptualizing and like communicating those things.
Hmm.
I have your chart downloaded. So the like program that I normally use to pull charts and look at them and like learn all the things is not letting me in, and I'm very very frustrated and upset, especially because like according to my human design I'm like a researcher
Yeah.
and I like learn all the things, and now I feel like I'm cut off from it.
Is it just not working in this moment, or, like, it
No,
wasn't
so
working when you did it all? Oh,
I've been trying to log in all week and it just will not let me, but it let me create a new account with a different email.
okay,
And then it also, or I guess I could just pull your chart with my other email address. Um,
perfect.
but yeah, so that just means that you have consistent access to the
Okay,
energy of those centers.
okay,
And each center has gates. When certain gates are activated, they can form a channel between each other. Um, and yeah, I feel like so unprepared for this.
no,
I'm
you're
so
fine. Can I ask then, you know how people talk about the ratios, like the 5:1 or whatever you said earlier? Do I have that, and, like, what does that mean?
yes. So everyone has a profile. Yours is a 2-5,
Okay.
I believe. You're August 13th, right?
Yeah.
One. Um,
Do you need
so you are a 2-5. A line two is the hermit. And what yeah. So my profile, I'm a heretic investigator. And I was like,
Cool.
like I'm what?
It just
What?
sounds cool. Like, you sound like a wizard. Yeah.
Cool, but it also sounds like absolutely confusing. Like it just makes like what the hell is a heretic
Yeah.
in terms of like human design? What does that mean? Am I like throwing everything out the window? So like one way to explain the line two is that you're naturally gifted and the best thing you can do for yourself is become absorbed in your own process.
Seems reasonable for the current state of the world.
Yes. And so during your process, you don't want to be disturbed, thus giving off those hermit vibes. And I'm reading this from a website because this is how I learn like all of my things is I just Google and I go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So because your knowledge is inherent,
Mhm.
you might have trouble seeing your own gifts and you need others to point them out
Mhm.
for you to become aware of them.
I mean, that relates, as you know, my recent journey with all the things,
Right.
because it very much was I've been avoiding it for a really long time, and then I was kind of, like, forced to acknowledge it, but even, like, trusting that I'm getting the right information with, like, my channeling and stuff, it's still difficult, and, like, I don't know if you saw, but I posted the Akashic Records reading for the Facebook group for February yesterday,
Hmm.
um, and I had gone into my records first, and then I went into the records for members of I do, like, members of Soulscape community Facebook group, and,
Right.
the messages were very similar, but the tone and the way they came through was very different. It's just, I think, an overall theme for this month.
Yeah.
And as someone else who's, like, I would say fairly prominent online in this realm and does Akashic Records and, like, does just a really cool business. Anyway, I'll probably get her on here eventually. She posted she had done a reading at the beginning of the year to preview for all the months. And
Uh-huh.
and she just randomly decided to post the words, which she hasn't yet for like January. She just did it for February. And the thing that came up was um, the flow of energy between the sacral and the heart chakra. And I was like, that's exactly the message that I got in mind for February. So it's like those things to reaffirm it. But it's like, I think that points to what you're saying is needing that like external, like, yeah, you've got this.
Yeah.
Like even my guides, a lot of the stuff they've given me and like the challenges has been for that purpose of like, we're only giving you enough so that you feel that confidence to keep going because like, yeah, you can do this and you're doing it.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting, even like on a like connecting to my guides level, they're giving me that kind of affirmation.
Yeah, and it's like even without knowing your design or your profile or your strategy or authority, you can see these things
Hmm.
coming up in your life. Then
Hmm.
once you discover your design, you're like, oh, like, oh
Makes
yeah, like
sense. Yeah.
this specific thing that's happening to me.
Yeah.
Like I mean, we're both going through our Saturn return right now. You're I think you're much more skeptical than me of a lot of things, which is that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm
I
I'm
like to
much
have
more like
healthy skepticism because I think it's like if at any point we take these things as a way to dictate how our life will go, that's problematic. Like they're
yeah,
not meant to be that way.
right.
And so I'm skeptical in that sense because I want to stay grounded in the fact that like had I not known this, this would likely still be my experience. I would get through it. And then
Yeah,
I can choose what tools to pull from to kind of help me as I go along. You know what I mean?
And that's another thing I really like. It brings awareness to the themes that you would
Mhm,
see coming up in your
mhm,
life or consistently. And then if you do start experimenting with your design, like I've been experimenting for the past
mhm.
year or
Okay.
so. Um, and if you start experimenting with your design and following your strategy and your authority,
Mhm.
it's things tend to fall into place a
Right.
little easier, but of course, that doesn't mean that it's like an end all be all. Like, I don't think astrology is
Exactly.
like, like I'm going through my Saturn return, but that doesn't mean that like it has to be a shit show
Mhm.
at all. I mean, it sort of has been a little bit, but like I, for example, had a Saturn return reading last spring
Oh, cool.
with someone, and it was a nice way for me to go into the next couple of years like with eyes open,
Yeah.
which is how I view human design is like
Mhm,
this is not like a hard and fast rule for anything in my life,
mhm, mhm.
but I can, refer to my chart and be like, "Oh, okay, I can see why I might be coming up against some resistance in this area of my life because of these things that I see in my chart." Um,
Totally. Yeah. Anyway,
so
continue to lay it on me. I'm ready.
have you seen your human design chart
Yeah, I
before?
pulled it like years ago, but I didn't know what it said. I was like, all
Okay.
right, cool. I just read like the basic stuff about like a projector and whatever. I was just curious.
Yeah. Okay. So
I never knew what like the two was. So it's interesting because that definitely is me.
yeah.
As you
So
know, I'm like,
I'm glad that you identify with that though, because like the 5, which I also have in my
"Hmm,
profile, is the heretic.
oh,
Um,
okay.
so the way that I have seen and heard and learned the 5 to show up in most people's lives is you essentially function as like a mirror for people,
Mm-hmm.
and you can trigger things in people
Mm-hmm.
that yeah. So like you can be a trigger for people, you can be a mirror for them to see like you just basically reflect back to them what they're projecting onto you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you like can, think of examples in your life where this has come up, but I'm experiencing this in my current situation at work is like I'm having the like expectation projected onto me of like, well, you need to be functioning and keeping up with me the way that I'm made to work and not working the way that you're made to work, which is very frustrating for me.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. Let me think. Because I also have a question, but
Yeah.
um, I guess my question is, does it make a difference to how these things show up, what order they come in? Like, is it because you have 5-1, right? So what if I had
Right.
5-2 versus 2-5?
So one is your like personality side and one is your design side.
This is like
So
my personality side.
so your personality side is the 2.
Okay.
So that's how you view yourself,
Yeah.
and then the 5 is how others view you.
Gotcha. I mean, I think it could make sense also just in terms of like not necessarily triggering people and stuff. Like I don't think it always has to be that, but
Right. Yeah.
in terms of I mean, I was mentoring people for a reason, like because I think that coupled with my like empath stuff, I can
Mhm.
sense what this person needs to be mirrored back to them for
Right.
whatever they're trying to do. So I don't know if that like is consistent with that 5. But I think too, yeah, I think I can be the other one.
The 2, the hermit.
Well, the no, the more the one that feels like more conflict. Like when you say like triggering people, like I think
Oh,
that could
yes.
definitely happen as well. I'm just trying to think of like examples because or like how to phrase it. Because I think too, like maybe just in terms of like you said before, like my defined centers, if I'm trying to map it back to what I'm learning right now, right? Because
Yeah.
obviously I understand it in the way that I've understood it for however many years, but if we're mapping back to my defined centers, like I have my way of analyzing, I have my way of interpreting information. And
Yes.
so at a certain point, and especially with the work I've done, like with energy work and protecting and grounding, and not that there's a ton of it, but the bit that I've done, I can sense when the thing that I'm feeling isn't mine.
Yeah.
And I think that relates to that maybe where like people's fears, insecurities, anxieties, and I'll feel them, but then I'll be like, whoa, wait a second. Like that's you. Like, and
Yeah.
like push it back. I don't
Well,
know if
so
that makes sense.
your all other centers in your chart are undefined.
Mhm.
Let me
Is
can
it
I share
red?
that? Okay, so you see here that
Mhm.
this is the only thing that's defined in your chart.
And that's
They're
because they're
colored in.
colored in? Is that how you know that?
Yes,
Okay.
they're colored in, and it's defined because this channel
Uh-huh.
is connecting the two.
Interesting.
So,
Okay.
like, you have gates, which are like all of these numbers.
Uh-huh.
You have gates that are defined, but they're not connecting to the gate on the other side.
Okay.
So these are called hanging gates.
Okay.
There's nothing bad about them. So human design charts are not inherently good or bad.
Mhm.
And I've found that a lot of people tend to think like, "Oh no, I'm missing so many things from my chart," like especially projectors or reflectors who are even more rare and don't have any defined centers.
Mhm.
Um, you not you, but like when people pull their charts for the first time, they're like, "Oh no, like I'm missing things. Why am I so empty?"
That's not what that is. No.
And no, it's not what it is. It just means that you have consistent access to this energy, and then like these open centers and undefined centers are
Mhm.
where you can be more easily influenced,
Okay.
or you have access to more wisdom from those centers.
Oh, interesting.
Um,
Okay.
because it's not just like inherent and constant in you, so you can kind of take a step back and learn more from those centers.
See, that's a
So
cool way of flipping that narrative.
yeah, yeah, it's awesome because like the top half of my chart, it's all undefined. I have a completely open identity center, which is the one that's here in the middle.
Mhm.
And yeah, like throughout my life, I recognize now, like, oh,
Yeah.
sometimes I don't know who I am.
Right.
But now that I'm aware of that, I can kind of check myself and be like, oh,
Mhm.
well, like, is this thing for me? Am I enjoying this because I'm around someone and I feel like I need to like match
Mhm.
them and their energy, or is this because it's something that I'm enjoying and I'm trying to take in and integrate into my life?
Right.
Um, and so you also have a completely open heart and will center, and that's where okay, I want to know what your first thought was when you heard that
Just
with
from
that
what you
face.
said, I mean, a big thing that I'm working on is trust in that area. And so I think what comes up for me, and maybe you can explain if this is possible, but is like where in matters of the heart, I that cognitive process I have doesn't always translate to how I
Yeah.
engage.
Well, and it literally oh, sorry, you get to see my news things. Um, it literally, like, does not translate.
Yeah.
Like, it does not I'm, like, trying to point to my screen. You guys can't see my
I
finger.
can see your mouse though when you're moving it.
Yes, exactly. So, like, these 2 things, these 2 centers, they talk to each other,
Hmm.
right? But, like, nothing else in your chart talks to anything else, which isn't bad. It's just that
Yeah.
sometimes you need to take a step back and
Mhm.
then check in before,
Mhm.
proceeding or like it's right for you.
Well, and I think what comes up is that maybe that's also on the flip side is where I have been too lenient with people who were being hurtful. If we're talking
Yeah.
like heart, because I can rationalize all of it, and
Yeah.
that's
Right.
to my
Yep.
detriment.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right here.
yeah,
Yeah. So like your heart slash will center is directly tied to self-worth. Mine is also undefined. I have like one gate defined.
you get me.
Um
Yeah, okay.
yeah, yeah. And I'm so with like for me in my chart, this being completely open, having no like consistent access to my own identity,
Mhm.
and then having this undefined has been a fucking doozy of
Yeah.
a time these past 29 years. But
Oh yeah, we're the same age.
now
I forget that sometimes. Yeah,
what?
we're the same age, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
My birthday is later this month, and I'm really excited for it. I have like no plans, but I'm really excited to
I
turn
probably won't
29.
either, but turning 30. I know I'm actually like this is a total tangent, but I'm kind of looking forward to turning 30 in like a weird way. I've been dreading it, but now I'm kind of like, you know what? I feel like a lot of stuff in my life in the last couple months has really settled and feels like it's moving in the direction I've been meant to, like all along. And so
Yeah.
it actually feels good moving towards that
Yeah.
milestone. Yeah, but okay, I'm curious. So okay, we went over the projector part. Mental
Yeah.
has to do with the defined, or is that just what you call it as a mental projector?
So a mental projector, you're like you technically don't have any inner authority.
Hmm.
So your authority is like your decision making.
Interesting.
mechanism.
Okay.
So, for example, like I'll use myself and my partner as an example.
Mm,
I have an emotional authority
mm,
because my solar plexus over here is defined.
okay.
So I have like emotional waves that I ride throughout the day, the week, the month, the year,
Mhm,
and I'm not meant to make any decisions when I'm riding that wave. Like I'm meant to make decisions from a neutral place.
mhm,
Um so for me, I also have my sacral defined, so I get like a gut response. I get like a yes or a no in my body.
yeah.
But because that's not where my decision making comes from, I wait until because like I can get a gut response and be really, really excited about something and be like, oh my God, yes, this is the greatest thing ever. I want to jump into this right now.
Uh-huh.
I know that I'm not supposed to be doing that.
I feel like I get that too, but in the reverse, like, my gut and that has told me no,
Yeah.
but same thing, I rationalize out of it, and also I rationalize out of it because I take on other people's shit, basically. It's like I
And
make
that's because you're
excuses.
undefined right here.
Yeah, and you know what? It makes sense because a lot of the work I've been doing, like all of it in the last few months, points to my solar plexus,
Yeah.
which is that trust and confidence. And I think I'm needing to build up that connection within myself
Yeah.
to act more consistently and like also in support of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you having an undefined solar plexus, like me having a defined one just means that that's how I make my decisions. I get really excited or I can get really bummed out, but I should never ever make a decision when I'm in one of those places. I have to wait until I come back to neutral, and then that's when I can feel like what's truly right for me,
Mhm.
yes or no, and if I should engage in something.
Okay.
But you having an undefined solar plexus, like you are like super intuitive and you can take on other people's shit,
Mhm.
but you don't have to.
Yeah.
You
That's
can
what I
just
think.
kind of like draw the wisdom out of those experiences
Mhm.
and not make it your own,
Right.
which is why like seeing your chart and knowing about your design is so helpful because like I am undefined, like I only have this part of my chart defined.
We're like opposites.
all
It's
of
so funny.
this
Yeah.
all of this I take on so much shit from other people, and up until the past like maybe 6 to 9 months
Mhm.
I didn't understand like what was happening and why I was so upset all the time and like why I felt so shitty. I'm like, oh, because like I'm doing things that aren't meant for me.
Yeah.
Because like I get a lot of things coming in my head and I'm like, is this idea mine or is it someone else's? And is it meant for me in this point?
No, that
Um
totally makes sense to me.
yeah. So like I love that your chart's so open. I think it's super cool because like
Fascinating.
you
Yeah.
don't have to like be super defined right here and be like very stubborn and say like no this is me and this is what I'm doing
Mhm.
and I'm not budging because that's my partner is he's got
Okay.
that going on and sometimes it's interesting.
For lack of different terms. Yep.
Yeah, because like I don't have that at all and he can be very stubborn and I'm just like we live together, so it's
Mhm.
been an interesting journey over the past
Cool.
several years, but
Yeah.
like yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. You
I know.
know the
I
things that
get
have
it.
been
Um,
happening in my life. But yeah, so like these are more places of like ease for you.
okay. And
And
so
then
what's
this is
the
like
oh, sorry.
constant, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
That does. Yeah, that makes sense. What's the like single definition, the definition single? What does that mean?
So definition just means that you like this is a single definition. So
Mhm.
in my chart, I got single definition, but that's because all the channels that connect these, like there's just one loop. So if you had, for example, say like your heart and
Mhm.
your solar plexus were defined,
Mhm. That's
but they didn't
totally what I
meet
meant.
and connect this way with
Yeah.
anything else, you would be a split definition.
Okay, cool. That makes sense.
So it just means that like these two things
That's
are
the only
connected
difference.
and they talk to each other,
Yeah.
but they don't talk to other things in your chart.
Okay.
And not that they don't. It's just that
It's like not my default setting.
it's not your default setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes
That's a
sense.
good way to explain it.
Cool.
And then this is your incarnation cross, which is like going into that is more like your life purpose
Okay.
and,
Curious.
and I can, off the top of my head, I don't know what this is. I can look it up for you
Yeah,
and
let's
then
do it.
we can, okay, hold on.
I'm just, yeah, I'm curious about
I have
this.
to go
That's
get my book.
life purpose, no big deal, you know?
And
Um,
so I will say that I, up until like very recently, did not vibe with my incarnation cross. Not that I didn't think it was correct for me, but I think I just wasn't at a place personally that I felt like it was correct for me or that I could like recognize that as being
right.
the direction that I'm going.
I mean,
Uh,
that makes sense. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of curious how this all, and not that we need to go down that route because that would take us like a whole other hour. But
oh
um,
yeah, human design is like a never ending
well,
rabbit.
that. But I'm curious how that progression for you could, in theory, relate to like the fact that you're in your Saturn return. Like, I wonder if
Well,
it's normal for people that that doesn't resonate until a certain point in life. You know what I mean?
so I like personally, I think it directly relates
Yeah.
because I've been like not to make this about me, but like I'm approaching my like exact Saturn return. So April for me is like April 11th or
Your
some
birthday.
random day and time. It's like when Saturn goes exact to the same place that it was the moment I was born.
Mm,
And so I've been feeling a lot of like pressure build up, so
mhm.
to speak, like just this
I've
weird
witnessed.
energetic, yeah, pressure personally and, in other areas of my life. And when I say personally, I mean just internally.
Yeah, for sure.
Um
That makes
and
sense to me. A lot of sense to me.
yeah, yeah. And so I'm feeling that, and as I've been, looking more into my human design just out of, curiosity because I'm 5-1 and the blind one is the investigator, and if I could just sit and research and like self-teach all
Mhm.
day, I
You
would
would.
be so happy. Like
I'm gonna
someone
look up my
please
Saturn return if I can.
just pay me to self-teach myself things.
Right?
Um
Well, you're looking up the
and
other thing. I'm looking up my Saturn return.
yeah, well here, let me go grab my book first.
Okay, do it.
Because I have like a book. It's called the Book of Destinies.
Does it only go by your birth date? That seems not right.
It's no, that's not right. It's like pulling up your
Right?
like your birth chart.
Astros. I'm gonna see what this one.
Okay, so you are a right angle cross.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
this
so
one has all the options. Okay. Date of birth. I'm gonna do this while you're doing that, and then I can cut this part out as we pull up the things. Time 15:15.
you share a incarnation cross with Fidel Castro,
Oh great.
Buddhist, Halle Berry,
Okay,
and
wait.
Magic
I want to do
Johnson.
this before we do that. New Westminster and current city. Is that where I am now?
Yeah,
Okay, hold on.
I got this pretty light going, so let me know if you can like not see me because of the light
First
situation.
return. Oh, second return.
Has it passed already?
Yeah, January 5th.
Was there anything, I mean, obviously nothing significant has to happen on that specific day, but
I'll
like,
look at my calendar. But sorry, you tell me. Okay, we're gonna like refocus here.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the incarnation cross. I am
Yeah.
curious. Yes.
So just like if you're looking at your chart, I'm pulling charts from Genetic Matrix because I find that
Mm,
the way that I process information, this is helpful for me.
mhm,
I also pulled your chart from Jovian Archive,
mhm.
which can look a little more simple. It doesn't look as,
I like this layout personally.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
do you wanna stay on this one?
Yeah, yeah. We can do that. It's fine.
Okay. Um, so the RAX just means right angle cross.
Okay.
It's just like the direction that that's pointing.
Okay.
So like your like sun gate is down here in this like wheel, so it's
Okay.
just pointing this way, if that makes
What's a
sense.
sun gate?
So your sun,
Oh,
like right here, is in gate 4.
my Leo. Okay.
Yeah. And so so like this side, all everything that's in red
Mhm.
on the left side is your like unconscious like body chart. So this is what was determined roughly 3 months or like 88 days, I think, prior to your physical birth.
Okay.
And then this is everything from the moment of your birth. So like if this would essentially be like your natal chart.
Okay, cool. Which I
So
had
this is
done a
like
reading of on another episode. So
yes.
people really want to get to know me, they can go look
Yeah.
at that too.
Well, hey, wait, what's your moon sign?
Libra.
Okay. I was like we were talking about Scorpio the other day or
Rising.
something.
A
Yeah,
Scorpio
okay.
rising.
Okay, yeah, because I'm a Scorpio moon, so I am either like, please don't talk to me, leave me alone, I don't want to interact, or I'm like,
Yeah.
let's lay all the trauma out on the table and
My
discuss it
mom's
in
a
class.
Scorpio moon. And she
Mm,
made a comment a while back, and I was like, "Oh, mom, you have Scorpio in your chart." And so I got her chart read, and she does.
yep.
My current, my partner now is
Oh,
Scorpio Sun. Yeah,
exciting.
yeah. But he
I
isn't.
mean,
He's opening up to this stuff, but it's not really his jam. So we'll leave that.
hey, I've been with my partner for 6 years now. We're getting married this year, and he is finally just like, he's never been one to like shame me for the things that I enjoy. Like he I'm very lucky in that he allows me to just be me. And
As he should, like a partner
yeah,
should do
right,
that.
right,
Yeah,
as he should, but like I've never felt like he doesn't think that I should be doing something that I like or shouldn't be interested in something that I like. So now he's finally like getting on board with human design a little bit and like astrology.
yeah,
And he's like, "Oh, can you look up like my like business partner's chart because I like really just need to understand what
yeah.
the fuck is going
What
on."
is going on over there? And I had
Yes.
something like that too recently, where you messaged me, and I was like, I think I said something, and we were talking about the card pulls and the readings I'm doing. And he's like, I was actually going to ask if you would do a card pull for me. I was like,
Oh,
what? Sure.
I love
Okay.
it.
But it's interesting. And I mean, but you know what? Like, I'm not big on astrology. I get the resistance
Yeah.
to astrology. I get the resistance to all of this. And I think at certain points it's necessary. So like, I'm not forcing it.
Mhm.
My main thing is I think like what you're saying is like, don't discount my experience because it's not yours. And
Yeah,
that's the big thing that
exactly.
comes up. But
And
anyway, sorry,
it's like
digression. We're
all of
digressing.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, like all of this shows up for you
Hmm.
based on your lived experience. You
Yep.
know, it's like we both have a 5 in our profile, but that doesn't mean that we've had the same things happen to us
For sure.
because of like having that 5 in our
Hmm.
profile.
Hmm.
Um, so and like my partner's a projector as well as you being a projector,
It's different.
that
Yeah.
your yeah, like your experiences are completely different.
Yeah.
Okay, so right angle cross of explanation. I'm gonna read you this like
Okay, cool. Let's do it.
little thing. And you just like let me know if it ugh,
Okay.
this damn
You're fine. Don't
stupid.
worry. Yeah. All good.
Okay, so it says your constant impulse in life is to inform and explain. Sometimes you feel quite attuned to what you were saying, while at other times you and your audience may wonder what on earth you were talking about and question how you know what you're saying. Within you resides the ability to transform people's lives. Your gift is to be able to communicate, hey, define throat with a
Mhm.
wide spectrum of people. Hey, Facebook group,
YouTube channel. Yeah.
channel, podcast.
Yep.
Your challenge is to make yourself understood.
Mm-hmm.
You can be said to have the tendency to blurt things out and projector. There you go. And many times find yourself saying things that have little correspondence with the thoughts and expressions of other people. Developing the ability to be comfortable in conversation can take practice, especially when you have so many insights and demand expression and explanation. So,
Fact.
no.
No, it
Right.
makes so much sense. And the thing where it's like the things don't relate to what people are saying, I find it's often because I'm like 10 steps ahead of them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
Well, and as a
really
projector, you've got kind of like a zoomed out view,
yeah.
essentially. Like if you were to think of what your role would be in like building a building, you'd be the architect.
Hmm.
You're the one that can see everything and you can delegate and you have the big picture
Hmm.
and you're kind of meant to guide and lead everybody. You're not meant to be the one who like me as a generator, the one who is the builder and like
Right.
puts up the scaffolding and creates that structure.
Mhm.
Um,
That no,
so
that completely makes sense, even just with the role that I'm hopefully transitioning into at work that I've proposed for myself, like, the fact that I sought out this type of role
yeah,
makes sense given that, so that's super interesting.
right,
And sorry, you had asked my Saturn return date, so, like,
yeah.
while we're off camera, it was January 5th, 2021, and I'm gonna go back to that date in my calendar and just see what was happening.
Do you like thinking back? Do you feel like there was a lot of pressure build up to that date? And do you feel like there might have been a little bit like if you were scaling a mountain and now you're kind of coming down from that mountain slowly, energetically? Because
Um,
that's kind of how I'm experiencing
yeah.
mine.
Trying to think. I mean, I don't know about that specific date. I want to check one thing. Um,
'Cause mine goes exact in April, and
Date.
but Saturn entered Aquarius last March, and then it went retrograde into Capricorn between the end of June, which is
I know what none of that means, but uh, I don't think there was anything on the specific day because I'm looking at my calendar and I track everything pretty like to the T.
yeah,
But I mean, that was like within 2 weeks of when I like went away. Well, my camera's off. When I went away to like on my trip and like all of that stuff, and it was coming like there was a lot going on. Like in the 3 months before that, I guess if that's what you said, right? Like the 3 months before that date,
yeah,
um, I
yeah.
got. I mean,
Well, I mean, that makes sense, but just, like, in the time leading up to it.
well, yeah, like I just had a lot of stuff that is now settling. So like I had an MS relapse, which led to looking at my MRIs and being told I
Oh,
had to switch medications. I went off that medication to then get my tubes removed. Healed through that, went on
ooh,
an insulin pump, got a continuous glucose monitor, and went on my new MS medication, all leading up to my post-op consult, which was 3 days before I left to Maui.
oh my gosh.
So you could say there was some buildup. And now though, and I don't know if it's like that specific date, but mind you, it could have
Mhm.
been kind of around that,
Yeah,
now it's all settling, right? Like I'm healed, I'm on my new medication and I'm stabilized. I
yeah,
went on
things
the
are kind
trip.
of, like, coming down and calming down, right?
Yeah. And like, we had an awesome time on the trip and that's a whole thing
I know,
now. And like,
I loved all the photos.
thank you. Um, so I can't say if it was the exact date, but it definitely corresponds to a bit of an arc. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and it's not like there's some crazy like explosive energy that happens like the moment Saturn moves back to its exact position, but like I'm recognizing in my own life that I'm feeling like things have been feeling very like heady for me
Mhm.
lately, and it hasn't been super pleasant.
I feel like I had a
But
meeting that day.
yeah, and so I'm just like, I know that April is kind of when everything comes to a head, and then, it's like scaling down the mountain
Mhm, mhm.
through, I think, like 2023
No, that I
is
mean,
when
that totally makes sense to me. And I mean, there's more stuff going on now, but that big it was a lot of my health stuff was, like, in that
yeah.
time, and now it's
Well, and according to your chart, maybe your Saturn return is like focused on health related things for you. I know for me,
oh,
mine is shining a light on my finances
mm,
and my relationships just in general.
yeah,
And like, holy shit, like, yeah,
yeah.
that's happening. That's been happening since the beginning of last year. And it's been helpful for me to be aware of that because I just feel like I'm kind of going into the next few years with eyes open,
Mhm, mhm.
and I can just kind of take those lessons as they come versus being like, why does my life suck? Oh, it's because of my Saturn return. It's like, no, this is like probably just a time in my life where things are sorting themselves out, and I can look to my chart and kind of get an idea of what's going on, but it's not like my chart is like, this is what's going to happen in your life. It's not determining my future,
And my
which
health
like
stuff
your
had been
human
a
design
trend.
chart doesn't tell you that either.
Yeah. Like, the health things had been a trend leading up to that point too. It was something I knew I needed to work on this year. So, like, I mean, all of these things kind of feed into that, right? Um,
Yeah.
but okay, what's the next part? The structure.
Okay.
On to
Yes.
the last, like, point there. Yeah.
Well, so I haven't finished your
Oh, there's more.
Yes, there's
Okay,
more.
let's
So
do it.
there's still, like,
Oh
all of
wait,
this.
there's more. Okay.
But wait, there's more. Okay, so it says your power of expression and your ability to share insights that transform your world are in the sound of your voice as much as in the words you speak.
Mm.
Tonality is an essential part of your communication. Your tone of voice will be most clearly conveyed when you speak in turn. Hey, wait for the invitation.
My bad.
And when you are relaxed in yourself, speaking out of turn and randomly interjecting your insights, especially when you feel inclined to blurt things out, can lead to misunderstandings and alienation.
Just all the
It
time.
is
Sorry.
it's just
Right.
straight up calling you out, isn't it?
It is, well, and I know I do that and I'm working on it, but it's really hard. And I
Yeah, well, but at least you're aware of it though, which is
Is
more
this
than a lot of
why
people
it's
can
really
say.
hard? I don't know.
I mean,
There's probably so many reasons, like, so many reasons. I think, the introvert self is part of it too, because I honestly can find social interaction exhausting, and so I feel like my default sometimes is just to, like, interject so I can get through it, which sounds
yeah.
terrible, but,
No, I completely understand what you mean, and you can see that in your chart, like,
yeah,
so down here, like, you don't have any of your motor centers defined,
yeah.
so, like, this is where all of your, like, physical energy comes
Mhm,
from,
mhm.
and I've got a like, this right here for me is so heavily defined. I
Okay.
can handle so much stress and so much bullshit. Do I enjoy it? No,
You
but,
can't
like, can I
yeah,
handle it? Yes.
okay.
But, like, it's like, you might find that you get exhausted more quickly than other people, and it's just because you're not designed to,
That
like,
makes sense.
grind through things, and, like, you shouldn't make yourself I'm sorry, I should, like, put myself on do not disturb. You're getting, like, all my emails.
No, it's fine. I didn't see it. But it also, the thing about the tone is interesting because I've had multiple people comment on the tone of my voice when I've
Did they
like
tell
voice
you that you're
messaged
too
them.
blunt?
Sorry?
Did they tell you that you're, like, too blunt?
No, no, no. It's the opposite. They said that I have a really calm, comforting voice and they feel safe talking to me like really
Oh,
quickly.
maybe I'm just projecting then, because sometimes I have people tell me, like, like, especially throughout my teenage years,
Yeah.
people thought that I was just being, like, really rude and mean, and I'm like, "No, I'm just trying to communicate, like, quite literally
Well,
what I'm, like, thinking, and I don't mean it in a good or bad way. I'm just, like, trying to state the thing."
yeah. That happens. So I'm fairly aware of it to tell people that happens when I'm too tired. I can't filter the tone of what I'm talking about. But I
Yeah,
think what that reading also discussed was like when I am communicating, when it feels like aligned for me, like my words can change things. Like it's
yeah,
powerful. And that's what I noticed. Like if someone's voice messaging me, like say a new connection reached out for help, and I like wait until I feel ready to voice memo back, that's often the feedback I get. Like in 1 week, I had like 2 or 3 people tell me I should record an audiobook because my voice was so soothing. And I was like, huh?
ooh, I'd listen to an audiobook that you
Oh,
narrate.
thank you. But so I think that shows the switch, right? Because other times it
Yeah,
will be, I'll say a thing and someone's like, actually, partner the other day called me out on this. Was like, you're kind of salty. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. But it's because I was so tired. I didn't have the ability to filter how I delivered what I needed to say.
yeah,
So it's that juxtaposition too, which I think is what has come up here. So anyway, sorry.
yeah.
Continue. This is interesting.
Okay.
Yes.
We're kind of almost done.
Okay.
Okay, so it says, to this end, you will find that developing speech skills and a sense of comfort with the sound of your voice or your own voice is essential. Timing for when to pronounce your insights is also essential. Otherwise, you will find everyone wondering what in the world you are saying and if they really want or need to pay attention.
hmm
Remember what you say can sound authoritative and unquestionable, leaving people bemused and concerned when what you are saying does not relate to them or their interests. Which also, like, I think that directly relates to being a projector because sometimes it's just not the right time for
hmm
what you're saying. Not that what you're saying
Because I'm
is
so
necessary.
here. I'm not connected here. Like that's how it feels a lot.
And then so the last bit says with your conscious sun in gate 4, so like your personality sun,
hmm
this little 4 over here
Mm,
is like how you view yourself and like how it expresses in like,
okay.
reality. Your mind is always coming up with solutions for anything and everything. You can even come up with solutions for problems that don't exist or situations no one has ever bothered to consider. When you
Exactly.
blurt out the latest thoughts that have popped into your head, you may notice that your audience backs away. On the other hand, if you give yourself time to watch your mind, to see how it puts thoughts together by examining all theoretical possibilities, you can explain complex situations in brilliant ways. A cardinal rule for you to remember is that even though you have a solution to fix things, does not necessarily mean that they want you to do that for them.
Mhm.
Your type and authority are always your touchstones to know whether it's time for you to explain something or not.
No, that all makes sense. And it all makes sense with what I'm doing at work now too, because I
Mm.
moved into a training and project coordinator role. And
Yeah.
I am dubbed currently the subject matter expert for my team, which means like when other teams are
Mhm.
working on like developing
Uh-huh.
platforms or things, they come to me to be like, what potential problems do you see?
And this is so perfect for you as a
Yeah.
projector too. Like, do you feel better in this role?
Well, it hasn't officially happened, but just the transition as soon as and, like, I proposed it because I was like, "This is what I need for this to be sustainable. I can't be doing" like you said, "I can't be putting up scaffolding." Like, I just can't. It's
Yeah.
exhausting to me.
That's the job of people like me.
Yeah,
And I love it.
bigger picture and I need the information because that's how my brain works. And it was just not feeling like I was being utilized in the way that I should be.
Yeah.
And so it hasn't fully happened yet, but I had actually the first day that was more structured that way, like last Thursday. And I like messaged my partner and I was like, this is the first day that's felt like I'm in my new role. And I had so much energy,
Yay!
like so much
Oh,
energy.
that's so
So
awesome.
I am excited. I need to be
Oh,
cautious, I think, not to overwork because I enjoy
yeah.
it so much because that's something I do as like a result of trauma is like I'll throw myself into work so I don't have to feel things. Yeah, I know. I get you. However, I do feel that longer term it's going to be much more supportive and it's building up like professional
That's so
skills that I'm excited
exciting.
about. So,
I'm curious to know how that conversation went. Like, how was that received when you initiated that and asked for that?
it went honestly it went really well. It was kind of a roundabout thing because there was lots of people transitioning at the time, but
Mhm.
It it honestly was more like they were seeking it out at the same time I was proposing it, so it went really well, but,
Waiting for the invitation, and it
yeah,
doesn't have to be a literal invitation.
yeah, it was super it's I don't know, I'm excited, so fingers crossed things go as planned. By the time this
Yay!
comes out, it might be more set in stone, which is why I'm a little apprehensive to talk too much about it because I don't wanna, like, you know, put it out there when it's
Jinx
not
it.
an official well, no, just, like, in terms of professionalism, I don't wanna be talking about it too much
Right.
when it's not on paper yet, but, yeah, I'm excited.
I'm glad this was, like, helpful, and of course, if you have more questions, let me know because I
I
will go,
will.
like, super deep into the rabbit hole of researching for you.
I mean, as much as you want to, you're welcome. We can always have a follow up in the group or something for a live, which would be pretty cool. But no, I really appreciate you taking the time. And as always, it's lovely talking with you. And yeah, just like thank you. And thanks for being a good friend.
Thank thank you.
Of course. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Coffee Time. Before you leave, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if today's show resonated, I invite you to drop into the comment section and share whatever personal introspection came up for you today. Anything you can do to help make the show more accessible is super duper appreciated. Until next time, I am your host and coffee drinking companion, Natalie, wishing you a beautifully caffeinated day.